Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad House of Delmar, together with my co-host Mark Cronin of statewide news service jbiztechphilly.com. And as you can see, now columnist for the Jewish Press.
And I'm having fun doing all of that. Thank you, Rabbi. I just wanted to let you know that when I write my column in the Jewish Press, it's about how government relates to the Jewish people, or doesn't, as the case may be. So with us today is someone who's in the executive branch of government, the mayor of Cohoes, the former chairman of the Albany County Legislature, but now he's the mayor of Cohoes, is Shawn Morse. Welcome back to the
Well,
Jewish
thanks
View.
for having me. I'm glad to be back. It's been about a year, so.
Yeah, you've been in the legislature at the time when you were back here, and now you're here as an executive. So for the city of 17,000 people, so it's great, you know.
Yeah, it's certainly exciting. It's exciting to be in the executive seat where you're able to take a lot of the things that you think will move a city in the right direction, and have the ability to put those things together and see them come to fruition. So I'm really excited about that.
One of those things, I never took you for an arts guy, but Cohoes Music Hall is getting a real makeover.
Well, isn't that incredible?
I never thought of you as an arts guy.
Well, you know what I am? I'm a guy who's trying to revitalize an old mill town.
Okay.
And I want Cohoes not to be known as an old mill town, but known as a destination. And we have the fourth oldest active music hall. But it's kind of in the country.
Right.
And we've kind of sputtered along over the last couple of years. And building a partnership with the Palace Theater is probably the most important deal that we've ever made since the opening of the music hall. And talk about revitalization of your city. The plan is to bring 40,000 visitors to the city of Cohoes.
I can't, I mean,
Because of
that's
the
just
music hall,
amazing.
that's
It
the
really
attendance.
Yeah, just the music hall alone. That's just, you know, we got a lot of things happening. There's a buzz in Cohoes that hasn't been there in a long time. But the music hall is the first big step towards becoming an all-American city once again, which is my promise to work very hard to bring Cohoes back to an all-American city.
And when was it last?
76.
Oh, really?
You know, it's
Okay.
been a long time. And on top of that, we changed our slogan to Cohoes Proud, because we are a proud community. The music hall is going to be an enormous step in achieving an all-American city. And you think about 40,000 visitors to a city of 17,000, a little more than
Incredible.
16,000.
It's going to be boosted to downtown.
I talk to business owners, they're ecstatic. I talk to people who want to invest, and they're looking for places that are up and coming. Our phone hasn't stopped ringing.
How much of a difference in personality do you have to have from going from the legislature to now an executive? Because you took some hard knocks as chair of the legislature. I mean, politics is a rough and tumble game, even from within your own party. But now with executive, it's sort of more of a showman type thing where you get cheerleader-in-charge. I think.
Yeah, well, you know, my job in the legislature in the beginning was to be the whip, to try to get everybody on board. You're talking about 39 people that have 39 different views on things, and trying to get them to come together is very difficult. And sometimes, you know, you have to really try to lead them to build a consensus. As the mayor of the city, my consensus is my own. And then I bring it to a 6-person council who is a lot different than a legislature. And they've been very receptive, and they've been very happy to see the things we're doing, and they have their input. I try to inform them on a daily basis, and it's still hard when you're in the legislature, because you're constantly trying to get more information.
Right.
But you know, as the mayor, we live in real time. Things happen today that may be something that I really want to move on, because it's a huge boost to the city. But you know, I think I have the personality to do both. I was successful in the legislature, started at the bottom.
Charming personality.
Started at the bottom, left at the top, right? I ran for mayor. I did really well, 61, 62%.
Right.
And now I'm working really hard to put Cohoes on the map.
One of the things that you would go back to, I think, the resources of Cohoes. When I first got here into the Capital District, I wasn't born and raised here. So I said, well, what do you do around Albany, you know? And so one prominent person says, you have to go to those Cohoes, waterfalls. You think, everybody knows Niagara Falls, but
Yeah.
why should you have to go 4.5 hours? You got something right in your backyard, and they're beautiful. They're just as beautiful as the Niagara Falls.
They are. They're gorgeous, and they're the second biggest falls in the state of New York outside of Niagara Falls. One of the problems is that the way they harness the power, the water didn't always go over the falls. And with Brookfield now having like a 50-year license and doing millions of dollars worth of renovation up
Who's
there.
Brookfield?
Brookfield runs the power plant now. They're a
I
company.
don't know what they are. They're
Well,
an energy company? Or?
They're a Canadian company.
Yeah.
And the funny part is I argued about giving them a license for that many years. I thought, boy, my son's not even 1 year old, and the next time this comes up for our city, he'll be 50. But they've done a good job, and they've invested a lot of money, so when you go to the falls outlook, it's beautiful. Water does now come over the falls constantly, and it's my job to promote them, and we want to see them lit, and we want people to be able to come at night. Just another reason to say Cohoes is a destination, not just an old Milltown.
Mazel tov on your new child. I didn't know you had a...
Well, this was a long time ago, Mark.
Oh,
He's
okay.
21 now.
Oh, so he's halfway there.
But I'm saying he was just a young boy. My daughter wasn't even born. And I was talking to people when this licensing process came in place. And I said, maybe the city should run this. Maybe the city should have the opportunity to run and make $11, $12 million a year to offset the cost and to do great things in our city. Unfortunately, I was outnumbered back then. I was just a young legislator.
Okay. I got to tell
became
you
a good partner.
When Jimmy Carter, and you talk about 1976 was the last time, around that time, Cohoes was an all-America city. In 1976, Mayor Rastus Corning of Albany was the first large city mayor to endorse Jimmy Carter for president. So Jimmy Carter comes up to Albany to kiss his ring, I guess.
Yeah, right.
And to say to him, and Rastus says, I just don't want to be a name on your letterhead when you do fundraising. I want to help you. He says, well, Mayor, I could use the list of all the Democrats in the city of Albany. So the mayor says, oh, no problem. He opens up his bottom drawer, takes out the Albany phone book, and says, here. So I'm thinking the same thing is true with you. You could take out the Cohoes phone book and say, here, because I don't know of a Republican in the city of Cohoes.
Well, there are a few Republicans in the city of Cohoes. There's independents. As you remember, I started my political career as an independent, so I certainly registered a host of independents. Cohoes is a very diverse community, and I think if I was one of the very few to ever win being a non-Democrat. Although I was a Democrat, I was running under the Independence Party line because I couldn't get the Democratic line. But in the end, when you're born in Cohoes, just like when you go to the supermarket, they stamp you right at the bottom. It says, Democrat. And, it's funny because today's kids don't look at politics the way we used to in past generations. I got a 21-year-old son. If I said, are you a Democrat, although he's registered, what does it mean to you? He says, I vote for who I like. And that's the kind of the mindset out there. So we as Democrats really have to establish what we stand for and let people know what we're about and why they should be part of the Democratic Party.
Is it easier not to have an opposition party for you, or is it more difficult because here you are fighting within your own party? Well,
you know me. We've known each other a long time. I put my nose to the grindstone and I just work and work and work and work. And many will work just as hard, but nobody will ever outwork me. So I really don't get involved in thinking about opposition. I set my mind to be the mayor and I went out and worked 16-hour days.
Philosophically.
I think philosophically, sometimes if you don't have a different view, you may become lazy and you may not work as hard and you may not have reasons to promote what it is you really stand for because it wouldn't matter. So I think having opposition parties, is just part of the competition.
And it's a good thing.
I think competition is always good, healthy.
All right.
As long as the Democrats win, I mean. But I think it's healthy to have good debate.
Because you have more independent blanks or independent enrolled voters than you do Republicans in the city
there's a
of
lot.
Cohoes.
You know what? I think across America, if you look at the voting turnout, it's kind of dismal. And it in itself sends a message, right? We've lost whole generations of people to be engaged in one of the most important parts of their life, which is government, because government's going to control a large portion of your life. And a lot of people kind of just, they throw their hands up and step aside. And, I've constantly encouraged people, get involved, because you should always question your government. You should always question authority. You should never be afraid
But don't
to
question
ask
you.
questions. Well, they can question me. Part of the...
I'm joking.
Mark questioned me a lot when we were doing that. I've always been very receptive to, people
Yeah.
questioning what I stand for. Right. And I've always thought that it's really important to accept, the criticism when it's warranted, and not accept the unwarranted applause. We're always willing to accept this, but the reality is when people, call you out, sometimes we're not so apt to want to do that, but I'm okay with it.
You're a professional firefighter.
I retired.
You retired.
I retired.
Did you retire because you were mayor, or did
Yes,
you retire
well,
because of something else?
I retired because it's a young man's job.
Okay. How old are you?
I'm 48.
You're young.
Well, I'll tell you what, when you're humping up, 3 flights of stairs with all kinds of equipment and hoses, and you're trying to save people's lives, and you get up to the top of them, and you're huffing and puffing, and I got a lot of you get a lot of aches and pains over the years. Fall down, hurt yourself, and all that starts to get you in your 40s.
Okay.
And plus, it was time. I wasn't going to run for re-election in the legislature. I made that decision. I was going to move out of politics and move into the private sector, and this opportunity came along, and looking from a kid born and raised as a poor kid in the projects to have an opportunity to run for mayor in your city. I think it's a great story, and I think it tells people all over my community, no matter what hurdles you have, if you just keep jumping, eventually you can get to where you want to be.
So do you have a budget problem, a budget surplus?
No, we're
shortfall?
actually in pretty good shape. And
so what advice do you have for someone like Mayor Sheehan, who has a real big budget problem, in terms of how she can fix all this?
Well, you know what, I can only say to Mayor Sheehan that it's a difficult job, as she knows, and she's going to have to figure out what's best in her community, because all the communities are different. In the city of Cohoes, we got creative this year. I'll tell you what we did. The pension system has always been something funded by taxpayers, but the taxpayer never sees a return on it. Mm-hmm. This year, the first move I made is I wanted to hire more police. And so I went to the chief of police, and I went to a detective that was there, both of them with almost 40 years of service. Very vital to the community, and very vital to have still with their knowledge. I asked them to retire, and that I would bring them back. And they were both old enough to retire, collect the $50,000, which is half the pay that they were making, use their pension to offset that cost. And in doing so, I saved the taxpayers $130,000.
And when you brought them back, what was that about? Was that part-time?
No, they're full-time. The only thing is, instead of making 6 figures, they're making half of that. And they did it because they loved the community. They believed in it. They bought into my idea. They were a little skeptics, saying, well, if we retire, what if you change your mind? But government's about trust. You have to trust each other.
Right, so you have the pension, so they have their pension money, plus they have their salary.
And when you add it together, it keeps them right.
The same.
That's right.
Where they want. That's what my mother worked for the New York City Board of Elections.
Yeah.
Board of Education, rather. I'm sorry. And she, it came a time when she was actually earning more money retired than working.
Yeah.
And so she retired. Why should I,
And in this case, they weren't ready to retire. They both told me they wanted several more years. So I convinced them to do it for the good of everybody. And the savings was $130,000. Then I hired 2 police officers, and I don't have to find the money because I used the money there. So in the first week, we hired 2 new police officers. Yet we declined the number of money set aside in the budget for
and new police officers are bringing in more revenue for speeding tickets.
Well, we have an amnesty program, so if you're watching the show, get out there. But then we took some of the resources and we instituted the first time in probably 30 years that we have beat police now walk in the streets, which is something the citizens were extremely excited about. Because of that, we caught a young 18-year-old boy who robbed 3 people by gunpoint in one night, 3 people. Because of this new beat police, we got a tip and arrested him in just a couple weeks. We had a person that had a house fire because of the new beat police that we have, where they have to assemble in different areas. They saved the guy from the fire that the police officers would have never been there if it wasn't for the new system. So it's paid off tenfold already. Business owners are excited. We did the solar program. We're going to have off-site solar. It's going to save us $250,000 a year. That's an
For
enormous
the
amount.
electricity, you mean?
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to be Debbie Downer here, but.
Well, you're always Debbie Downer, but I'll get you. I'll get you.
I mean, I know you're a good cheerleader. I love Cohoes.
Yeah.
I go there a lot. But I just wanted to ask you, like, what happened with this mainstay of a company, tables, chairs, and more?
He retired. Nothing more and nothing less. I just talked to him. He was a city councilman. He's an incredible
And
asset.
he couldn't find anyone to take the business over.
You know what? I think he just wanted to sell it. He took all of his product. He's got nothing left. He sold everything he had in that store, and he's going to move to Florida, my understanding. So I can tell you this.
But it's an empty storefront.
It's only going to be, look at, these empty storefronts are short-lived. I am telling you that with the Palace Theater comes an enormous amount of excitement.
Right.
I have people calling us every day about wanting now to invest in the place of Cohoes that nobody would ever invest. When I talk about economic development, I talk about revitalization through economic development.
Sure.
I don't talk about all of the houses we built by people with great wealth all around the city. Why I'm very happy they're there. I'm talking about going to places where nobody wants to invest and giving them reasons to invest. That's true economic development. I can tell you that we have some great economic development announcements going to be made in the next couple months.
You
Absolutely.
don't want to give me a little tip on
You know
this?
what? I like you, Mark, but I don't like you that much. No. I've, obviously one of the things about economic development, you guys know, is that when these people come to the table, the first thing they say is, I don't want nobody mentioning our name. We don't, until the deal is done and signed and the announcement's made. Is
it another arts venture, or?
I will tell you that there's a lot of things that are going to be happening in Cohoes that you'll want to have me back in 6 months to talk about how this all happened in such a short time, because it's been stagnant and the city's really been struggling for years.
Well, that's something new that we have so many people on, like in Troy also has seen a revitalization, renaissance. But, in the big cities, and I asked that again, we have so many government officials, Mark brings here on the Jewish View. But, New York City, 20, 30 years ago, people, when I says come, to see the headquarters of Lubavitch in Brooklyn, Rabbi, what are you doing? You're getting me killed? And now Brooklyn is, you can't, I said $1 million. He says you can't buy anything. $1 million, you're a joke to get $1 million.
But the great part is you're not a joke in Cohoes with millions of dollars, right? Here's the great thing about the city of Cohoes. It's, right in the middle of everything. You're 15 minutes to anywhere, less than that, to Albany. You're surrounded by Rensselaer County, Saratoga County, Colony, Waterford, Troy, Lansingburg, Albany. People can get to Cohoes on 787 and through all easy accessible points where most places you can't. And when you get to Cohoes, you can come in, you can enjoy the reason that you're there, and then you hop on the highway and you're home in 10, 15 minutes.
Now, you're renovating, or already renovated, some of the former mills?
All of the mills are all housing, all,
apartments or condos?
They're all rental apartments, and they're high-end rental apartments. And here's really what the...
And you don't have a vacancy problem?
The mills are doing quite well. There's a lot of people, but here's what my job is, right? All of those people live in Cohoes. They've built all around the city. None of them really come to Cohoes. They live in the outskirts. For the reason I just said, they hop on 787, go to work in Albany, get out of the mess of trying to find parking spots and everything, head back to Cohoes, and they got a great place to live. My job is to get those people to the downtown. How do you encourage people to come from the downtown when there was really nothing for them to come for? Well, arts and entertainment's one of them, and it's going to be one of the biggest. And of the other things that we have happening, our goal is to build mixed use right in the middle of downtown, so people can come and move into the downtown, and underneath them are vibrant businesses. And that plan is coming to fruition, and we won't rest in Cohoes until we can say we're an all-American city.
And is that what's coming up in the next few months?
I think you're going to see a lot of great things coming up in the next few months, Mark.
You also had like an entertainment venue that had a lot of trouble in Cohoes, and I think it closed down. You know where I'm talking about, off of 787.
Many years ago.
It was many years?
Many years ago, when that was a local bar, became a hip-hop bar, and it was at a time when, the city didn't have a lot going on, and there was a lot of kids going there, and you know what happens when kids and alcohol mix, you always have, energetic kids. Listen, I understand, I was a kid at one time, but it was fun. I mean, it was great.
Yeah.
The hip hop was going on. Kids were always having a good time. Doesn't somebody come along and ruin it for everybody? Which was sad because I thought it was going to be a great club.
So as someone in, whether I know you're a firefighter, but you're putting out fires in a different way now.
Yeah.
Are you looking to, in a more orderly fashion, bring some of that nightlife back?
We're looking to take, which was one time our business district, Rumson Street,
Yeah.
and turn that into the downtown entertainment district, where you could come and watch a show, come and enjoy the concerts that we're going to have at the Canal Square, and have a place to sit down and eat outside with your friends and, have a beer, have a coffee, have a sandwich.
Right,
And maybe if we're successful, and I believe we will be, maybe Friday and Saturday it's closed down the cars and it's a walking district. And we're trying to take what was the business district and move it to Saratoga Street, which is where we have an enormous amount of traffic. And it just makes sense because times have changed. Saratoga Street is happening as far as cars going by. And the music hall and those incredible venues rest on a street that's kind of lay dormant for years, and we're going to revitalize that.
Cohoes used to have a relatively large Jewish community.
Yeah.
I think in the 40s and 50s, maybe
Yeah.
the 60s, I'm not sure, but some of the
Well, he had a synagogue there, then.
there was a synagogue in
synagogue,
Cohoes,
yeah.
but now Beth Tefillah, has a whole history in Troy. Beth Tefillah Synagogue
Yeah.
in Troy has a whole thing about how the Cohoes Jews moved to Troy and in Albany, and they have a historical thing. If you didn't know about it, maybe we can bring you over to Beth Tefillah and you can learn.
Listen,
more about
everybody,
the history.
everybody's welcome to
But-
Cohoes. I think.
No, but I'm saying you can learn more about
Yes,
the history.
I'd love to.
That might be a part of the history you might not have known about. But one of the prominent Jews in Albany is Sandy Rosenblum.
Yeah.
And he grew up in
Cohoes,
Cohoes.
yeah.
You know Sandy?
Yeah. Well, I know of them.
You know of him.
Yeah, but I'd love to. I always like to go on little journeys with you,
Yeah.
Mark, and learn because I think the culture is what really you're trying to capture. You're trying to bring all kinds of cultures together and to come to a community where they can just say we're going to Cohoes. I mean, there's no reason to wake up right now and say I think I'll just go to Cohoes. Outside of Spindle's, which is a wine bar that's being very successful, Smith's restaurant, you have the golf course. There's great things there, but nothing that just makes you say Cohoes is a destination. When you tie all those things together with the music hall and new economic development, all of those places that have been there for a long time just fit right in. And now you have a destination, and Cohoes will be a destination.
Well, I did choose a safe storage.
There you go, that's Cohoes.
That's a Jewish-owned business.
Yeah.
And I took out a storage bin there. But
Yeah.
that's a Jewish-owned business. Plus, there's Deicher's wall coverings.
Yeah.
That's also Jewish-owned. So
Cohoes is
you
diverse.
Still have
It really
some.
is.
Now, how are you getting along with? I mean, the big gorilla on the block I think at Tremson Street is Mara's Pharmacy, right?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's one of the businesses on.
But it's a big part of that. If that went away, boy, would that be a problem.
Well, listen,
So-
I don't know how much business
How do
is
you get
brought up.
along with John McDonald?
You know what? I get along with everybody. Everybody who loves Cohoes and has an interest in Cohoes. Philosophically, did me and John have a lot of clashes? Certainly. I was a president of a firefighters union. He was the mayor. We see things differently. He didn't support me in my campaign.
Because he had one of his workers,
Because
Diane Nolan, running. There was someone who worked with
right.
He,
I
I don't know what the relationship is.
She was one of the main pharmacists that ran his store, and so,
Okay.
I think everybody in politics desires power.
Yeah,
So
that's why I'm asking you about this, because
right.
you do have to deal with him. In the city of Albany, you have Pat Fahey and John McDonald clamoring for attention because they both represent the heart of the city.
You know what I've said for a long time. You were there when I talked about it. I've always said if you don't need to take credit, you can get a lot of things done. I'm not worried about credit.
No.
They can worry about credit if that's what they need.
No,
I need results,
Right.
and I'm not going to clash with people who are in the position to help my city. We could have political differences. We can have philosophical differences. We can have a whole host of differences. But at the end of the day, when it comes to making Cohoes the best it can be, you got to bring everybody together. And
right.
and there's no other way to succeed. And I think people who bite their nose to spite their face because they don't like somebody, just set their community up for failure, and I'm not going to do that.
I know, and that's why I'm
Yeah.
brushing, I didn't want to belabor it, but I just kind of wanted to.
I have no problems. I mean, here's the bottom line. He's the assemblyman. He has a role. I'm the mayor. I have a role. The county exec. Everybody has a role. And as long as we can all recognize that it put it together, it can benefit everybody. That's what it's all
Well,
about.
that's another position you wanted to be, is the senator, too.
Well, I did. I ran for the state senate because I thought at the time the Senator Breslin wasn't doing a good job. And I got to be honest with you. You know what? I think when I ran, I think it opened up a lot of eyes. And I think, today I wouldn't run against him now because I think he's doing a great job.
Well, he still hasn't come on the Jewish View in all the years that we've been here. So I've been trying. So maybe one day he'll acquiesce.
Well, hey, listen, one thing they'll never be able to say about me is that I ever ducked anybody's questions or come on any show. I go on Paul Vandenberg and all he does is beat me up, right? So I still go because I think what's important is that you have a voice and you share it and you let people make their own conclusions
Well,
as
I
to.
always say in politics, say what you want about me, just get my name right. And,
They don't even do that, Mark. Everybody spells it Seanmoris. It
well,
says,
because there was a Shawn Morris
Yeah.
who was in the Albany Common Council. So.
but I got to get my name spelled right because if they're going to talk about me, I just want to
get my
spell
name
it.
right. That's right.
Shawnmors.
Well, I did that. I did it correctly here.
You
for the
always
third,
have.
I couldn't.
I've been here 3 times. If you got it wrong,
Forget it.
He's
There's no
tracing you
hope.
out over here.
So, what do you see as the biggest issue that, besides the economic development, besides the way the city looks, besides the aesthetics, what's going on behind the scenes that you're working with in the nitty gritty that you really have to untangle and really get to the
I
bottom
think
of?
the reality
Since you don't have
is
a budget problem.
I think we've done very good with the budget. The biggest thing for the city of Cohoes is trying to unite everybody behind one cause. And that's not always easy, right? The campaign was a campaign that had 2 different sides, and I just want to unite everybody. Economic development's really hard to get them to come into places where you would say, why would I invest there? We're working day and night to make that happen. That's the hardest thing. And I think the results are going to show people that Cohoes can be anything it wants to
And
be.
you have to get people to know that there's no dash between C-O and H-O-E-S, like it's a
Cohoes, right.
Cohoes.
Here's the other thing.
It's a
I want to, and I want to say this before we leave.
Yeah.
Cohoes is open for business. We lit up the tower of City Hall. The flag is lit up. The message is our future is bright. And Cohoes is open for business. We don't want to have bureaucracy and red tape. We want to cut all that so that when you come to Cohoes, you go, wow, that's the easiest place to do business. And you tell other developers and you tell your friends, and they come and they go, wow, this is a great place to do business. So if you remove all the red tape and all the bureaucracy, wait till you see what we're going to accomplish. I hope we're the envy of every city in the United States
You'll
of America.
explode. You really will.
Yeah.
Now, your uncle was your predecessor,
My uncle was the mayor, yes.
George Primo.
George Primo.
So how does that jive with him that you're doing? I mean,
You know what? He's my uncle. I love him to death. He loves me to death. We're
Right,
family,
I
and he's
know.
the biggest cheerleader I have right now.
He
So,
is, okay.
yeah, absolutely.
So when you do things differently, that's not a reflection on what he didn't do.
It absolutely isn't. The reflection on what he wasn't able to do is that he just didn't have the time to do it. And I'm picking up on a lot of things that he started on the groundwork, and I'm just carrying him through. So,
What does the mayor's position pay?
78,000.
Oh, wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah, about 5 less than I was making as a firefighter, and it's probably the
But more than what you were making as county
well,
chairman.
the county chairman's job is part-time. The mayor's job is 24/7,
Right.
non-stop around the clock.
Okay, so you took a pay cut.
I certainly did. But you know what? At the end of the day, what matters most to me is that my kids look at Cohoes, they're proud of it, my neighbors are proud of it, and all the people that live there can say,
How-
Shawn did a great
How
job.
come a lot of the elected officials come from, Cohoes Boulevard? Is that weird?
I live on Grandview Avenue.
But they all,
Re- re-
seem to live in.
Yeah, well, in my neighborhood, there was the mayor, there was a school board member, there was assessors. Roosevelt is where
Roosevelt,
John
maybe.
McDonald
Maybe
lived.
that's what I'm thinking,
Ron
Roosevelt, yeah.
Kennistra. Maybe it's
Right.
contagious, who knows? But all I can tell you is that the Cohoes that you knew yesterday will not be the Cohoes that you'll know tomorrow. And I hope we can come back again another
No,
time.
you will be. I mean, absolutely, without a doubt.
And we'll talk about
You
all the
know.
great things we've done.
So why is it called the Spindle City?
Well, because back in the day, we used to spin cotton in the textile mills, and And, when you spin a lot of cotton, you get the name Spindle City.
Now you're reinventing yourself.
We're
that's
reinventing
all.
ourselves. We used to have all kinds of textile mills that spun a lot of things.
Is,
I just found out, I always believed that we started out building the mills for the textile, and I was wrong. I found out the first major business in Cohoes was making screws. So even I learn every day. So
you go.
it's great
That's
to be
right.
in the seat and learn a lot, and I think I got a lot to offer, and the people of Cohoes have so much to give, so it's a great
well,
match.
so good to have you back.
Great to be
Shawn,
here.
you're doing great work. You're going further and further,
Yeah.
and we're going to look forward to seeing what Cohoes and meet you at the waterfalls.
We'll meet you at the falls. We'll do a show outside in the
Okay.
falls.
I love
All
it.
right,
Great
thank
to
you
see
very
you, Mark.
much.
Thank
Take
you.
care,
It's great
Shawn.
to see
Thank
you.
you.
You're welcome. Look at that, spelled right.